Welcome to the Survivor to Thriver show with your happiness expert, Samia Bano. Are you a survivor of abuse or other trauma? Are you tired of feeling stuck, silent, and stressed all the time? This is the podcast people from all over the world join in to learn exactly how to stop suffering and start living with more inner peace and joy. Are you ready to eliminate suffering from your life and transform from a survivor to thriver? Then congratulations, you are in the right place. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Survivor to Thriver show. So yesterday I left off at a very critical point. I had been sharing with you that my family, I was like around 14 years old by this time, but my family made another international move, this time from the Middle East to Pakistan. Because there were some things going on which made it impossible for us to continue living in the Middle East. Things that caused some additional stress and drama in my life, and that added stress, added tension and drama made things even more difficult. It made it even more challenging for me to cope with my feelings. And again, my reaction, the best that I could do in the moment to deal with it was to become even more introverted, become even more silent. And the outlet that I found that made it possible for me to do that was to really I became a bookworm, and sort of actually it got pretty intense, me and my bookworminess at that point in time, but the good news was that I was reading really good books, and I actually started coming across books, one after another, that proved to be really, really helpful in providing me with a sense of direction and the clarity that I needed in how to move forward and help myself heal. And the two books that sort of really had the biggest impact on me, that kick-started that whole phase of my healing process, were The Diary of Annie Frank and The Autobiography of Johnny. So these were two books. First of all, these were two girls close to my age. They were real people. These were their real stories. And I really related to, their, even though the challenges and the trauma that they experienced were very different from each other and very different from what I had experienced, nonetheless, it's like there's a sense of, you connect at a level of basic humanity, and I noticed that there was one thing that was in common between Annie and Johnny, that both of them shared that really helped them to maintain hope in their life, that gave them courage, that gave them a sense of deeper meaning and purpose in their life. It was like, hey, I want that too. I need more hope in my life, because By that time, I was sinking into a deeper and deeper depression. And I needed hope. I needed courage because of the disempowerment with which I was struggling. I needed a sense of purpose and more meaning in my life, right? So what was that common thread? The common thread was their faith in God. For both Annie and Johnny, in different ways, they connected to their spirituality, they connected to their faith, and it helped them to go beyond just surviving to being able to really thrive, even in their very difficult circumstances. And so what really struck me about this realization was that I was supposed to be somebody, like a person of faith. I'd been born into a Muslim family. I called myself a Muslim. I prayed and I fasted and I did a lot of other things in my life because that is what a good Muslim is supposed to do. And the most ironic thing that really struck me was that the very word Islam means peace. In the very name of the religion, of the faith tradition, there is a promise that is made to us that if we follow the way that is shown to us in Islam, it's that we achieve peace, that it is the way to achieve peace. And yet here I was, a Muslim without peace. And I was like, this is, how can this be? And why is this? And why is my faith not helping me like it helped Annie and Johnny? And I realized that the reason for that was that up to that point in my life, I had really taken my faith for granted. I had never even really critically thought about my identity as a Muslim. I had never made a conscious choice, conscious decision to practice my faith. I had just been doing what I was told to do by my family and just following along what I saw the people around me doing. And I realized the shallowness of my knowledge and the shallowness of my understanding of my faith. As I read Annie's autobiography, diary, and I read Johnny's autobiography, they were quoting like specific verses, specific teachings of their faith that and talking about how they understood those teachings, how they understood those verses, and how they made sense of them in a way that really helps them. And I was like, well, I can't do that when it comes to the teachings of Islam. My understanding was, I realized, so shallow. And that was because I had never really taken interest. I had never really taken the initiative to go deep, to really understand what I was being taught and what it really meant and so forth. So I decided to change that. I remember it was right after I finished reading the autobiography of Johnny. I'd already read the Diary of Annie Frank, that I went to my mother and I told her I need to go to the bookstore And very specifically, I asked her to take me to a store from where I could buy an English translation of the Quran, because I was like, you know what? I'm going to study the Quran for myself, and I'm going to do it in a language that I understand. And I'm going to make this commitment to study and see what it says. And then not only am I going to study and see what it says, but I'm going to apply it in my life and test it and see, if it's going to actually be able to help me, if it's going to be able to help me like Annie was able to help herself and Johnny was able to help herself, if I can help myself. And you know what? It gave me a sense of hope. It gave me a sense of direction and purpose in how to move forward. And that was like a huge breakthrough, a huge shift. And, there was just, wow. And then, of course, once I started to read the Quran itself, it was just amazing. Like, I'd be reading, and some things made sense, and some things didn't, and some things just went over my head. But every so often, I would hit a point, a verse, a chapter that just kind of gripped me and just held me. And I was like, I don't know about everything else, but this verse is speaking to me. It's presenting to me part of the solution that I was seeking. This is presenting to me the guidance that I needed, that I craved. And this, so I knew that is what I needed to start to really focus on. And that's what I did, so it was such an empowering process and such a life-changing process. I see the time. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the episode for today right here. And that way, next episode, I can pick up on, pick up from the point where I actually get to share with you some of the key teachings and key learnings that I came across that really, really helped me. And in the meanwhile, the lesson from today is, just this idea of taking ownership of our own education, taking ownership of our own learning and well-being, rather than just blindly following along our traditions and blindly following what we see other people doing. Because when we just blindly follow, not to say that may not help or doesn't have any impact, but when you take ownership, when we take ownership and, we begin to learn with the sense of purpose and commitment and, it just changes our whole experience, and just makes the learning process so much more meaningful and so much more effective. So if you are struggling in your life, don't just depend on going with what you have been told and what you have seen other people do. Take ownership, take responsibility for your own learning and well-being, and make an intention for yourself to begin to learn, what you need, and apply it in your life, right? Because the knowledge you have will not help change your life unless you apply it. Okay, so with that thought, I wish you lots of peace and joy, and as usual, I want to remind you, love your feedback, so please do connect with me, and you can do that very easily by going to my website at www.academyofthriving.com. See you tomorrow.